You're probably under the impression that the first step to farming is to put the seeds under the soil. But farming actually begins much before sowing the seeds. The land is first plowed so that the soil gets mixed properly. The tool used to do this is called a plow. This activity also removes all the weeds and other unwanted plants from the soil so that the crops that we want can grow undisturbed. We can also use another tool called a weeder to get rid of weeds in the soil. After the land is prepared for farming, the seeds are chosen. This depends on the various different characteristic features of the crop, like the water requirement or the sunlight requirement, compatibility with the climate, etc., etc. Now, once you've decided which crop to grow, and then the sowing is done. That's when you put the seed inside the soil for the plant to take root. It's very important to time your sowing right so that you get the harvest at the right time. It's also important to bury the seeds a little far apart from each other so that they don't interfere with each other's growths. It's also important to sow the seeds in the soil up to the right depth. After the seed is sown, it's time to take care of it as it grows, providing it with nutrients and water regularly. Actually, the process of supplying water to crops in agricultural areas is called irrigation. And without it, the crops would just simply die. It's important to give the crops an adequate amount of water at the right time. As you keep irrigating your farm, your crops will start to grow. First, seedling, slowly into a big plant that we can use. But once the growth phase is over, it's time to harvest. Harvesting is when we remove the parts of the plant that we can use from the field. Harvesting is done with a tool called a sickle. It's a handheld tool with a curved blade that is used to cut off the part of the plant that we need. For example, when we remove all the wheat grains from the wheat farm, we're actually harvesting the wheat. The part of the plant that we need, or the wheat grains in this case, happens to be the yield. After harvesting the crop, the yield is generally moved to a storehouse. So if you think about it, the food that ends up on your plate has probably traveled through hundreds of kilometers, all the way from a farm to a storage facility and then to a market and then finally to your house where you eat it after cooking. So therefore, enjoy every meal.